Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and I am from Muskmelon. If you've never been here before, then welcome, you are in good hands. And if you have been here before, then welcome back. So today we're going to be going over 5 Illustrator tools that I think that you should definitely be using if you're a graphic designer, because these tools are going to streamline your design process so that you can have more time to think of your creativity and less about the nitty-gritty stuff. So let's get straight into it. So the first tool is global colours. Now you may already be using this, and if you are, then that's fantastic. If you're not using it, then let me explain what it is. Global colours is an option when you create a swatch, and it's just a tick box. Now this tick box means that every item with that colour swatch you can change the colour of within seconds. Simply move the sliders, make sure you have the preview selected, but move the sliders across and everything in that artwork that had that swatch will change to those colours. It is so easy to do, especially if you have loads and loads of artboards and you need them all to be the same colour. They change within a few ticks. It's so simple. So let's take a bit more of a closer look at these global colours then. On my screen I have a melon, which is from my logo, and what I'm going to do is get rid of all the colours actually, so that we just start off plain. So I'm going to make this black. With it selected, make it black. Going to select all unused and let's delete them. Yes. Okay, so we're back to a plain black melon. And I apologise as well for my very squeaky chair. Squeaky, squeaky. Now, to create global colours, it's really simple. What I'm going to do is, let's pick a colour. I quite liked that original colour actually. Let's go for this one. Kind of a deep colour. When you go to add it as a swatch, that's where the change happens. So if we select new swatch, this box comes up. And the only thing that we're interested in right now is this box here, this tick box that says global. And you need to make sure that that is ticked. Now, we press OK. And the reason that you know that this is a global colour is because it has this little triangle in the bottom right corner. Now you can see the black and the white ones don't have this. So if I was to make this black, change it, that's what tells you that it is a global colour. Now, if we had, let's change it back to black. We have a few of these like this. And we decided that we wanted to change to black. If I was to double click the black, press preview and change it to something else, and press OK, nothing on that screen has changed. None of these items have changed, even though they were all associated with the black. Now if we undo that and we select all of these and make them this kind of deep purple colour, and then clicks off. So now we are not selected on any of those items. None of those items are selected. But if we were to double click the swatch, press preview. This is always unticked, by the way, preview, which frustrates me. But if you just select it every time. But it's just something to remember to do. Anyway, once it's selected and you press preview, if we were to change this one, so let's make it more purple, and all of the colours have changed. All of the colours that were associated with that swatch have changed together. Now this is really handy if you have a very detailed piece of artwork and a lot of items are using the same colours. In this instance, it's a good example to show you, but it's not really detailed, obviously. But when you're using something much more detailed, this would be an absolute godsend, because say you have, like I said before, you might have a client that said, you know, I don't want this red anymore, I want it blue, or it might be you might be going, oh, I'm not sure on this, I'm not quite sure on the colours. You can literally just move a slider, preview it, nothing is damaged, nothing is changed, nothing is permanent. You can always revert back if you want to, but you can see the artwork in the colours that you need and see if it works, and if it doesn't work, then fine, but at least you've then seen it to know whether it does or not. So it's such an easy and simple tool, but one you should definitely be using. So the next tool is the Shape Builder tool. Now this is an awesome alternative to the Pathfinder tool. They are very similar, but with the Shape Builder tool you can be more precise. So if you want something to merge or delete, but you don't want it to apply to the whole item, then it is so simple to do, and you can be a lot more precise with your designs. It's definitely a tool that I would recommend, and so I'll show you a few examples. So with the Shape Builder tool, what we're going to do is, I'm just going to drop in a few different shapes, different styles. Didn't mean that to be that big. It's fine, we'll sort it. And then let's do a circle. Okay. I'm going to colour these different colours just so you can see what it is I'm looking at. Okay, so we have our 4 shapes. Now if we were to cross these over and to use the Pathfinder tool, which I have located here. Remember, all of these are in your window settings. You can find all of these different bits on here. So with Pathfinder, if I was to have everything selected and press these buttons, it joins them all up, takes them away. That one doesn't work. That one, just everything that's crossed over cuts it out. And then these ones kind of break it up, but it's not very specific. Whereas if we were to go over here to find the Shape Builder tool, it basically looks like 2 circles with an arrow. When we hover over items, it will show you what each section looks like. So everywhere that it intersects, it makes it into a new shape. But what we can do is actually make something into something else. So for instance, we might want to remove just the star so that it has these points. Now at the minute, if you look at the arrow, it has a plus symbol next to it, but if we hold down Alt, that turns to a minus, so plus, minus, plus, minus. Now if we were to click, it would just remove that, but you can also click and drag and it draws a little line. As you can see, I accidentally went over the square, so I didn't mean to do that, so I'm going to have to undo. But let's try again. I'm going to just do the star, and now only the star has been removed. We might then want to merge the circle with the octagon. How many sides has that got? Well, that shape. And then the square we might merge with the other part of the square, so that's whole again. So then we have 2 different shapes. We can then click off, move bits about. But we basically have a lot more control over what we're doing. It's completely up to you, obviously, what you want to use it for and what you need. And this isn't, you know, the best example ever because it's not me working on it completely, but this is just to give you an example of how it is manipulated, how you can be much more precise in which bits you want to delete and which bits you don't. So for instance, let's do another one where we could do a few circles over this, and then with the, make sure everything's selected again with the Shape Builder tool. There we go, just click round and delete all those shapes, and then you might go, actually no, I don't want that shape, that doesn't look right, and then you can just draw back over and it builds that shape back in. Whichever colour you have in your selection, in your fill, that is what it will fill that colour with, that shape with. So do bear that in mind, but that's quite easy to sort. But this has just got so much more control than what you would normally have with a Pathfinder. So definitely something to take a look at and have a play with and really just get to grips with it yourself. The next tool that we're going to look at is the width tool. Now this is used on strokes and it's so simple to use, but basically instead of using your preset options where it goes thick and thin and all this lot, you can choose exactly where you need it thick and thin, because sometimes they just don't work for what you need. So you can say make it thick at the start, thin, thick, as much as you want, but you have complete control, but it still keeps everything lovely and smooth. So let's see a few examples of that. So what I'm going to do is remove all of these, we don't need them anymore, and I am going to draw a simple line, and let's increase the width, and maybe we'll colour it as well, let's make it purple. Oops. And the stroke. Now this tool only works on the stroke, so please do bear that in mind. Now the width tool is over here. On the left hand side you can see it's kind of a swiggle and then it's got some lines over it, and when you've got this tool selected it's a black arrow and it's got a little swiggle under it, and that tells you what tool it is. And if you hover over a line, that swiggle turns to a plus. That means that you can use this tool on this area. So what we'll do is let's make the bottom as thick as we can. You pull out, you click and pull out, and as you can see that increases the size of that width, but it also doesn't change the size of the one at the end, and so it gradually goes from that thick down to thin. So let's make this quite thick for now, and then what I'm going to do is choose somewhere else. Now this doesn't have to be where there's already an anchor point, or anything like that. It's literally anywhere on that path you can choose. So let's select here, we're going to pull it out, and as you can see it adjusts so that it's always smooth. It is never jagged and rough, it is always a smooth transition. So we'll pull that out, but then maybe we might want the bit between this and that one to be thinner. So what we do is we click. Now you always have to pull out first and then you can pull back in. So let's say we wanted this bit quite thin, and there you go. So that we've made our own shape, which if we were using the other settings we wouldn't have been able to do. Again, we can do it again here, so let's say thick, go a bit thinner, and there we go, we have our own custom width that we've made ourselves. The awesome thing about this as well is that you could make an end really fat, and then if you go into your width tool, or your stroke tool, sorry, and you can see the profile there shows you what it is, what our current profile is, which is our individual custom one. But then if we change our cap from flat to a round cap, we then get this bobble on the end, which, to be honest, if you're doing some floral pieces or some just really nice flourishes, these can look really awesome, and they really do make a difference with your design, but you're in full control, and that's the great thing about the width tool. The next tool is the repeater tool. Now this is relatively new, but it has been out a little while now, and I find it quite similar to the pattern tool, or when you're creating patterns, but it is different. You have some slight differences. You can create a radial pattern, a radial repeat, a grid repeat, or a mirror repeat, but there's lots of different controls so that you can just get it to how you want it. This one has a few more bits in it, so I'm going to go through them with you now. So with this palm leaf, what I'm going to do is go to Objects, down to Repeat, and then to start with we'll choose Grid, and then we'll work through the others. So with Grid it's pretty simple, it just repeats it in a grid pattern. There's two types of bits around the edges. Now the normal corner edges just decrease the size as would a normal shape. Now this button here where it's got 2 arrows facing out, if you were to pull that, there's one on each side, if you were to pull that, the top one will increase the distance between the width, bring them close together, further apart, but if you pull them closer together it also increases how many are there, and if you put it further apart then obviously that just decreases. The other option is the one down here. Now this one increases the distance between the top and bottom, so you can make a lovely pattern like that. I actually think that looks quite nice. Now these longer bars at the side, as you can see when you hover over it an arrow appears, this drags out so that you can increase or decrease the size of your box. So you can see how many times the pattern's repeating. So that is more how much you can see. And that is basically all the ones you've got for the grid one. So let's take a look at the radial version. So we'll go back to our original, we'll go up to object, repeat, radial, and this one, as you can see, is a circle, an ellipse, and the pattern will repeat round that ellipse. Now our controls are slightly different from this one. There are some similar ones. As you can see, we've still got the arrows here, and if you were to pull that, it increases how many are together, you know, the distance between them, and essentially in this one, as you can see, it says instances, how many instances occur round the circle. So this one is really simple to use. Then you don't have the block like you had before, because it's only in the middle, so you don't need to see how far it can go outwards. So that button isn't there, but it's not needed. You also have this button here, which is essentially the same sort of thing as what I was just talking about, but it increases how close together or far apart these instances are from the center. So you can create it quite small if you wanted to. But there is one more button that we need to take a look at. So this button down here is very similar to the button over the right here, in sense of the picture is of 2 arrows in a circle, but this circle is 2 semicircles. And if we were to pull one edge, so let's pull this edge, as you see I pull it, the line turns from a normal line to a dashed line. And the further you pull round, you can see that the colour showing that these items are highlighted disappears. So if we were to stop here, those 3 items have now disappeared, and I can keep going. I can make it into a half if I wanted to, or just over. And basically, if you only wanted this to be partial of a circle, then you can, and it's a great way to keep control. So let's say you wanted that, you could then turn it round, and there you go, that's the radial one. So the final one that we're going to take a quick look at now is the mirror. So I'm going to move this down here, make it a bit bigger. So again, object, repeat, mirror. Now with the mirror, again, the tools are slightly different. So not only if you are selecting your item, you can drag it apart and the other item will move apart, but you can also cross the line and merge these 2 items together. Now this is great if you need something symmetrical. Obviously with the name of mirror, it's kind of obvious that that's what it would be anyway, but you do have a lot of control, and I know sometimes, you know, having something symmetrical really matters, so this really helps. But in addition to that, you also have this white dot in the middle, and if you pull that, that does essentially the same item, but it's only left to right, whereas if you select the item itself, it goes up and down as well. But that just shows how far apart these items are. Also, you have a dot at the top and the bottom of this line. These 2 do essentially the same thing, and if you were to pull, it changes on which angle the mirror is starting from. So where is the mirror? Essentially, you have to think of this line as the mirror being plonked in the middle, and wherever you are plonking that mirror is where it's going to repeat from. But this one only repeats on the flip, only once. So if you wanted to do multiple instances of the mirror that you've already made, then you'd have to kind of save this mirror repeat and then start a new repeat as a grid or a radial or something and go from there. But essentially, this is how you use a mirror repeat. Next is the blend tool. Now you've probably heard of this a few times, but it's definitely one that needs to be in the list, so that's why it's in the list. With this tool you can not only blend colours but blend shape, so it can start off as a triangle and end up as a square, and it doesn't have to go between 2 points. You can have several points along the way and it morphs and change colour the whole way along. So let's see a few examples of this. Let's go plain and simple to start with, and we'll just do colours. So if we select the blend tool over here, which you can see is a square, circle, circle, click that. Or if you like shortcuts as well, that is W. Let's click the purple one, click the yellow one, and you see it fills in the gap and says, right, if we are doing one instance, then the middle one will be this colour and this size, so that's what it will look like. But if we double click on the blend tool, we have some more options. So at the minute it's doing smooth colour, but if we choose it to specific steps, we can increase that number, and as you see, every time I go up one, a new shape with a different shade of colour is included. You can also choose specific distance. In this instance it's 4 pixels, but if we go down, they're too close together, so it's not really going to change. So now what we can do is try and morph a shape into another shape and a different colour at the same time. So again, go to your blend tool, let's click the star, click the circle, and it's gone for a bit of a shooting star look at the minute. But if we double click the blend tool, that's because it's gone for a smooth colour. But if we change the steps, you can see the steps are really high. If we were to lower these, let's just type in 30 and we'll go down a bit more. Now this is a good example because you can see that from the first shape, the first instance after the star has actually already started to smooth out, and the further you go down it smooths out until the one before the circle actually looks like a blob, like you wouldn't have said that was a star initially, and then it morphs into the circle. But along those steps it's also changing colour, so the less you go for, again, it just changes each time to adapt to whatever it needs to do between those two shapes. And let's say we wanted to add a square in the middle, so we'll put a square there, we'll make it blue, and we'll do the same thing again but with a square. So we'll put the blend tool from circle to square to circle to square, star to square to circle, and then it's on smooth colour. Again, you can see the colours do blend really nicely, but then if we go to specific steps, they've gone really high again because that's what makes it fit in well, and we'll start lowering it down. See, it starts changing out, and if we go here you can see the star folding in kind of its arms, making itself into the square, then the square starts bubbling out a bit more and smoothing over and goes to a circle. I will show you one last thing, which is that people use this a lot for shadows, so this is something that I think you should know. So if we just get rid of these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the star underneath, and then I'm going to duplicate it over here. Now what I'm going to do is hide the top star, make these two black, and actually I'm going to make this one white, and I will transition this star to this star, and then what I'm going to do is put that red star back on top, So now you can see it looks like it's a shooting star shooting into the distance. A lot of people use this for shadow. You don't have to have this bottom one as white. You could actually change its opacity to 0 perhaps, and that softens it a little bit more. But that's how a lot of people make the shadows, and the shadows look like the shape above. So this is definitely one that if you're not already using, then get on it, have a play about. That's always how you learn on these things, because all designers do different things, and so it's good to know which one's going to be specific for you. And so yes, definitely one for your list. So that's all 5 tools. Is there any tools that you think should have been included that I didn't include? Illustrator has a lot of tools that are all very useful, but these 5 were just the 5 that I know that I use a lot, and also can really change how I'm creating items, and also make my workflow a lot easier, so that I can actually think of being creative as opposed to how it happens, how to make that thing happen. I can just get on with it. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this. Obviously give this a thumbs up and a subscribe if you really enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.